Hi everyone, this is Margaret Manning with 60 and Me. This is the place where women over 60 come to be inspired. My guest today is John Underwood. John lives in the UK. He is a businessman, an entrepreneur, but he started something quite amazing in the UK that has spread around the world, and it's on a topic that you might find a little bit intriguing, and that is the subject of death. John is the founder of Death Cafe, which is an event that can be held anywhere around the world. And John, I'd love you to tell us a bit more about the Death Cafe movement, just generally how successful it's been in the last, 2 years?
Yeah. It's, I first got the idea from a Swiss sociologist called Bernard Kretaz, and he ran something called Café Mortel. And I was looking to do a project which was talking about death, and I came across Mr. Kretaz work, and I thought, that's it. So the key elements to a death cafe are talking about death in a public place with food and drink. And the audience, the people who would come, are those people who want, at that point, to talk about death. If you don't want to talk about death, absolutely fine, that's completely normal, but the death cafe is not for you. If you do want to talk about death, then this is the place for you. Right. What it is a safe space. We've got no agenda. We're not selling anything. We're not trying to get to any conclusion. We don't really have any answers. What we do provide is an open forum for people to talk and to share their thoughts and to listen to each other. And people tend to really enjoy it. So each Death Cafe would have a facilitator who would be responsible for kind of introducing the session and mentioning things like respect for others' views and, confidentiality. And really, after that, all they say is, what's brought you along today? And as everyone has come along specifically to talk about death, people just dive in and they take it in turns to say what's at the top of their mind regarding death. And it could be a practical question. It could be a story from their family. It could be where they're currently at in terms of death in their own mind. It could be anything. And after everyone who's wanted to has taken a turn to speak, we just open it up and the group talk about it from there, and that's it.
I can imagine that it would get very emotional at times.
Yeah, it can do, but in general, we have a lot of more laughter than tears. Yeah. I mean, people who want to come along obviously want to have this conversation. So sometimes their family doesn't permit them to talk about death, or their friendship group doesn't permit them to. So they've had these thoughts going around their head for years in certain cases. Yes. So when they come to a place and get an opportunity to air them out and just speak them in public, you get some incredible contributions from people, and there's a palpable sense of relief. And because talking about death is something often said, something of a no-no in society, it doesn't often happen, but there's this, it feels a little bit transgressive, a little bit naughty as well, like having a midnight feast. So there's a kind of joy to it as well. And and it tends to be very refreshing and ironically, extremely life enhancing.
I think in some ways it shows that you're very brave and very courageous to talk about it. And I think that taking a taboo like death, which, like you say, a lot of people don't want to talk about, they change the subject immediately. Just sitting there and saying out loud that I'm afraid, or that I've experienced this loss and I'm not doing well, it just makes you feel like you're in control and you're being brave. It's a courageous act. So I think 100%. It's wonderful. Do you know, John, I've gone to your website and I checked out the different places where these death events are being held, and as I understand it, really anyone who has the right qualities and feels confident can hold a death cafe. And there's no building, or it's in your home or in I don't know, it's a church hall or somewhere that you can use for free, and then just invite people. So if somebody didn't see a death cafe being offered in their region, and there's You said like 2,000 have been offered in the last couple of
Yeah, in the
years.
last four
So
years, there's
they're
been
around.
about, yeah, they're around. They're in 32 different countries, so they've popped up. But yeah,
Yeah. So we've got lots of options. But if you do want to start one yourself, if you feel like
yeah.
there's a need in your community, 10 or so people would like to get together, what do people do, John? I know you have an infrastructure to support them.
Indeed, yeah, no, I would really encourage people who've got an inkling to kind of have host a death cafe to give it a go. It tends to be very easy to do. It doesn't tend to cost much money, and it tends to be really sort of satisfying and offer a lot in terms of personal development. And so each death cafe has a host and a facilitator, which can be the same person.
Right.
So the host's role is to do all the organization, and they would be responsible for sort of finding an appropriate venue. And as you said, that could be pretty much anywhere. We've had death cafes in all kinds of locations. The first one was in my home where I'm sitting now. After that, we did one in the Royal Festival Hall. We've had them in parks, in libraries, in pubs, obviously, in lots and lots of cafes, in tents, in festivals, all over the place. So it's finding an appropriate place, one that feels comfortable to you, one that is accessible to the people that you're hoping to come, and sort of finalizing the date and kind of pinning it down actually when the session's taking place. And then the host will be responsible for letting people know. And so you can list it on our website, deathcafe.com. And then, but that doesn't tend to be enough. It's good to send it out to networks. Particularly if it's a university town, for example, you can send it out to students. If one's connected with artists, for example, you could send it out to them, or scientists, or
right.
Yeah, the communities with whom one is connected and who may find it interesting. You can also contact the local media. They tend to be keen to cover Death Cafe. We've had over 1,000 articles about Death Cafe through people contacting their local paper, and it all functions to raise awareness of this subject. So that's really good. And then it's the actual session itself. And that's where the facilitator comes in. And the facilitator's responsibility is to kind of hold the space, as it were, and to guide the session. And they'll be responsible for kind of setting out the ground rules, which include respect for others' beliefs and confidentiality, and then just allowing people to speak in a manner that I've set.
Right.
And the facilitators needs to have certain qualities. They need to be a good group facilitator per se, and understand about group dynamics and how to manage those. They need to be comfortable talking about all aspects of death and dying with equanimity. So, I mean, if someone finds it very triggering for certain aspects about death, say myself, I get uneasy when people talk about ghosts. Sometimes people have this conversation, and for some reason that makes me, feel slightly uncomfortable. But that's okay. But I need to kind of not be shutting down the conversation because it makes me feel.
Right.
I need to be able to sit with that discomfort.
Yes.
And so that's an essential quality of anyone looking to have these conversations.
Yes.
And then finally, and this very, very rarely happens, but if there are vulnerable people who are attending, then the facilitator needs to be able to on-refer. Death cafes obviously can't provide ongoing support to people with bereavement needs or something like that. But fortunately, there are a lot of services in those local areas who can provide that. So it's an awareness of the local service network and how to refer people onto that. And so that's really what's needed.
That's really great. And you have a guide, don't you, on your website, deathcafe.com, that goes through all of these details, like what's expected, what the like you said, the qualities that are needed, and then someone can just go ahead and register and take advantage of that and do their Death Cafe meeting.
Yeah, no, it would be ideal if someone went to another Death Cafe to sort of check it out in advance. That can be really helpful, but sometimes it's not possible. There's a lot of informal mentoring that takes place between Death Cafe hosts, where they share tips and ideas and just chat amongst themselves. And yeah, I think that's it.
You know, honestly, this is really fascinating. I mean, we've started this conversation, and I've thought, who would want to go to a death cafe? Like, what's, you know, really, that's kind of well, morbid, I suppose, is the first word that comes to mind. But
Yeah.
now that I think about it, I mean, I can see how for a lot of people it'd be so liberating and so freeing to have that conversation for once in their life in a safe place, you know, where no one's going to judge them, no one's going to laugh at them or, you know, take them seriously. John, this is really great. I really advise everyone who's watching to go to deathcafe.com, check out the site, and if you've got any questions, I think you have a contact me button there where people can send you a note.
Yes,
But you might find a death cafe just in your neighborhood and take advantage of that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.